Well, welcome everybody to another thought leadership episode here in our video podcast. And I'm excited about this topic. It is one that comes up over and over again. And with my fellow YPO here, Ryan Rieches, has got a tremendous background experience in this topic. Got together through this micro forum deal that YPO does, where it kind of brings people together. I was super excited to be the exact person to kind of come and discuss this topic. We'll dive into. But thanks, Ryan, for joining me. I appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Brad.
So you can see behind me here, we're entering holiday season here, and we're talking about kind of getting back from Thanksgiving. And, you know, during that time, you get a chance to reconnect with friends, family, and so forth. And I did the same. And, you know, this is a subject matter that continues to come up, which we'll talk about as it relates to positioning of your brand, your personal brand as the CEO, the founder of a company, of a business. You know, we're seeing more and more, right? Whether it's the personal brand of the CEO, the founder, even some of their C-suite sometimes, bringing visibility of them up, right? Because individuals buy from individuals, and the whole focus on know, like, and trust relative to the corporate brand, right? The brand of the actual company, the product and the service, and how those two balance one another out, and where you put focus, you know, versus the other, equal, or does it depend based on the size of the company? And so I've asked Ryan I've got some opinions I've kind of seen and navigated the own journey myself and my company. And Ryan's had a lot of good cross-section experience he'll be able to share, but it's something that continues to come up that I know that a lot of people are feeling they need to get out there. And some people are more comfortable being on the front lines and doing videos and things of that nature than others. So we'll kind of see what role that plays. So excited for Ryan to dive into that, and we'll get his background here in a second. But as always, we kick off immediately with a quick win. So if you don't take anything else from what Ryan and I jabber about here, you can get a quick win right out the gate. So with a tool podcast resource. So Ryan, you got something you can share with everybody?
Yeah, I came across a great AI tool. It's called Prompt Perfect. I don't know if you've heard of that, but it's a great resource. They have a few different areas that I really use pretty often. One is an area called Arena, and it allows you to put in just one prompt, but then you can get results from 4 or 5 different AI models. So even the different Chat GPT versions provide you different perspectives on the same prompt, or Claude, or a few different others. And it's interesting. One prompt, many different answers.
Wow. So so in the same screen, it will kind of give you back. I mean, it's all you gotta do is put the prompt in one time,
yeah,
and then it'll pull in. Can you choose which ones you want it to pull from, or will it?
It's already preset, but yeah, you can select which ones you want to use, which is fantastic. And then they also have another one in here. It's called Auto Tune. And if you're not sure exactly how to craft the right prompt, or you're just out of time, you can develop a prompt, and then it'll give you 4 different versions of that prompt optimized. And every time I've done it, I've gotten an improved level of prompt quality from it. So it's just a great little tool.
Now I'll pull it up here. Is this the one right here? The Prompt Perfect AI Prompt Optimizer?
That's it. Yep.
Oh, right on. So this is the Arena thing that you were sharing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, wow. And for somebody that lives and breathes in this space, you know, there's just a new tool being created around every moment, it seems.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Fantastic. We'll put that in the show notes, and hopefully everybody can go check that out and check it out as a tool. And so in the same vein, I will share, and some of you may have heard of this one, but it just came up the other day. A friend of mine texted me and another buddy of mine who's doing a big conference, and he said, "Hey, who do you use to do your slides and so forth? I got a bunch of new slides and content got to put together." And so for those of you that haven't heard, a great tool is called Gamma. So, you know, you got Canva. A lot of people are shifting away. I was an old school PowerPoint guy. It took me a while to pry my PowerPoint out of my hands. My team kept pushing me forever. But moved over to Canva, and, you know, it's got a lot of AI automation tools, but Gamma is one that even goes to another level. A buddy of mine that's my YPO forum mate, he uses this now, and incredible what he's able to get from it in terms of automation, creation of slides and content. You can kind of put all your predetermined templates and colors and so forth in there. And just, I mean, every day these tools are getting better and better at, you know, creating what you're, you know, wanting to, you know, create. So great 2 AIs to scratch that itch here to kind of kick off. So hopefully we can check those out. We'll throw them in the show notes. So Ryan, love everybody to kind of just know your background here before we kind of dive into this really great topic, and the case studies and some of the specific examples that you can share. And as I said, we met through kind of this YPO micro forum that kind of connects YPOers across the world. He's in California. I'm here in Georgia. And those of you know me quickly, Outsource Access, we grew to 500 people, 4.5 years, offshore staffing firm in the Philippines, serving about 85 different industries, helping people redefine how they scale, mainly focused on, SMBs and supporting them, trying to be the most trusted and reliable, resource out there. Cause there's a lot of doubt, fears, and concerns when it comes to the outsourcing world. And a lot of what we do is work, with clients and businesses that are wanting to take their content, to a new level, and especially business owners and what have you. So we cross this topic quite a lot, ourselves. So excited to hear Ryan's perspective with the zillions of brands and experience that he's got. So love to hear your background, Ryan, and then we'll kind of dive into this subject matter.
Yeah, sure. I'll give you a quick overview. The name of our firm is Branding Business. And so we're a B2B brand strategy firm. We are really at the intersection between brand and business. And we exist to help companies grow through the inspirational power of their brand. So we rarely work with startups. It's usually established companies who are facing what we call pivotal moments. They've grown, they've evolved, they've adapted, they've acquired, and they've become something different. And yet often their brand is stuck in the past and now not really allowing them to be perceived as to who they're going to be in the future or where they're at even today. So this topic of, how does the CEO or the executive team, their personal brand relate to the corporate brand, is one that does come up quite a bit, because although we work with the marketing department, we really focus on working with the C-suite, the executive team, who are going through those complex moments of their evolution of the business. And so our job is to create clarity out of that complexity. And as they've gone forward, usually as a result of M&A, quite frankly, when they need a new story to tell. And so, the story that the C-suite tells needs to be synonymous with the corporate story as well. So that's a little bit about us. We've been around for a little bit over 30 years, always focused on B2B. B2B tends to be pretty complex. And I always like to say it's not what you do, but why you do it or how you do it that really matters. And that's where storytelling comes in.
A story, more than ever, I think, is taking front line as people are looking for authenticity and a connection point, with their target, customers. And real quick, if we can back up just briefly, right, Ryan? I mean, This is kind of the core business, been in for 30 years. I mean, a big chunk of your life there. But what was kind of your entry point that drew you to this and your passion for kind of this particular, industry?
Yeah, well, good question. So I started off as a designer, doing corporate identity work, and grew that quite nicely, and then evolved it into a B2B brand marketing firm. And so we start off as Graphic Edge, then we changed our name to Rieches, my last name and business partner. And we had the B2B marketing firm for about 20 years. And we found that, marketing's great, but in order to have true success, we needed to have a seat at the leadership table, working with the C-suite through the power of the brand as opposed to just marketing. So too often we would present a big idea to a marketing department and they didn't see the big picture. And unless we can get to the CEO or the board, some of those great ideas just stuck right there. And so working with the C-suite allowed us to transition into really this focus we have today, and that's B2B brand strategy, how to use the brand to drive the business forward. And so for the last, 12, 13 years, we've been Branding Business. We changed our name to really reflect what we do.
And when you and I met initially, because it's an interesting niche that you're filling, right? Specifically helping companies when they hit an inflection point, a change. And so I know, you guys partner with a lot of like M&A firms, right? Because as soon as a transaction occurs, this is one of the first things on order of business that needs to be addressed. So I can imagine that's a big referral source for you guys, as M&A firms kind of want to bring you in, right at that inflection point.
Yeah, the majority of our clients are PE backed. And so, we have quite a few great relationships with PE firms. As they acquire more and more companies, now they end up with, a platform brand, but then maybe they've added 2, 5, 10 or more brands. And initially they'll keep all those brands. They don't want to disrupt the organization. But at some point you realize you really don't need all those brands. Each brand takes care, nurturing, budgets, and a lot of times those can be collapsed into what we call brand architecture. How do we structure the business? It's house of brands, branded house, or a hybrid model in between. There is no cookie cutter approach. It really is whatever is most appropriate for that particular business, where the organization's going, and the path to get there. So until the acquisition's complete, it looks good on paper, but then afterwards we have two roles to do. And that is to assess the brand equity across the board, across the different brands that they have. And then what often gets overlooked and kind of related to our topic is the cultural alignment and adaptation to the business. Most acquisitions fail to meet their potential because of the lack of cultural integration. And so what we find is that if we go through the process and we provide clarity to the employees on here's where we're going as a business, not just a business plan, but we like to help them develop their what we call guiding statements: purpose, vision, mission. Purpose is why you exist. That's that emotional connection to something bigger than just a paycheck or hitting quarterly sales numbers.
And if I could, Ryan, real quick to drill down, because I think that's a really interesting topic, because culture is one of those things that gets cliched around a lot. And, you know, we all know the phrase, right? Culture eats strategy, you know, for breakfast, but a lot of people still don't focus on it, and none of their employees know their core values, and they're just on a piece of paper or on a wall somewhere that nobody can kind of repeat. So I'm curious, you know, as it relates to that M&A aspect of things, and you said that's the number one, right? If not the top issue of success when two firms kind of come together. Is it typically because one has a strong connected culture and one doesn't at all, or they both have a strong one and it's just kind of both getting on the same page? I'm sure you've seen different mixes of all of those. Interesting to zero in as that being one of the key issues of success, not the product, not the service, not the finances, all that, but just getting the culture alignment. What do you find typically is the misalignment that happens? Lack of culture or just differences?
Different cultures. And that's natural. You would expect that. And people are typically loyal to the organization they work for, right? And so now you've been acquired. Okay, now are we keeping my brand? First off, do I have a job going forward? You know, that's that's the first thing they want to know. And then how can we develop one culture? Now that's not easy to do. So it begins by providing direction. So when we do research with employees, and we've done literally hundreds of thousands of surveys with employees, the number one thing that they want is an understanding of where the organization's going. And that's usually provided by a vision statement, you know, what we aim to achieve.
Right.
So people want to be fulfilled in their work. And so if you know where the organization's going, you know how you fit in. And so it's a double benefit. You now have an employee who feels fulfilled. He's achieving the corporate objectives, and he's also fulfilling their own personal objectives, but they're aligned now. They're not incongruent. They're together. And when you have that happening, it becomes very powerful. And so after the vision statement, we help them write the mission statement, which is often confused with a number of different things, but it's how we're going to achieve the vision. And so after we go through the brand development process and put clarity, we're developing one set of statements. Here's who we are, here's our brand, and it's mostly built around what is our benefit to our customer and how do we differentiate from the competition, both rational and emotional. And then we provide these guiding statements. And now all the employees know where we're going and how they fit in. And it becomes, now we got some power behind it. You know, the old Jim Collins flywheel, you can get that moving pretty effectively.
Yeah, it's getting back to your hedgehog concept. Yeah, and I'm a fanatic on Jim Collins as well, right? And you talk about disciplined people, disciplined thought, disciplined action to be built to last. Yeah, and just getting clarity, you know, on that hedgehog. And for a lot of, you know, businesses and certainly kind of ADHD entrepreneurs and business owners, sometimes that want to go after different shiny balls. It's tough to kind of get that distilled clarity about what is, you know, what can you be to truly be the best in the world at, that has an economic engine that also you can be passionate about, and trying to find that intersection can be challenging. So is that the first step? Because there's lots of companies that aren't in the middle of M&A that live in this disaster, right? So there's a whole standalone offering, I'm sure, just on your survey process for existing businesses that aren't going through M&A to get clarity on that. But is that where you first is kind of survey both, both sides of the two entities coming together and get clarity? Does anybody really have clarity about where the company's going? I mean, that'd be a surprising statistic for everybody to know. Like what percentage of people actually have clarity about where the company's going a lot of times?
Well, here's the thing. Most executives think that they're communicating, but there's no such thing as over communicating. And so, the average person, needs to hear something 9 times. So you just have to continually repeat it and make sure that it's passed down throughout the organization. Yes, the leadership needs to communicate it, preach it from the hilltop, but also each of the different layers of management needs to understand it and communicate it as well. So it's we always build the brand from within, where the opportunity going, but also we take a look at the voice of customer in this process as well. So understanding how the customer or prospect thinks about the business and the brand and the competitive nature and what the opportunities are, what they're looking for, and they'll, as an outside firm, they'll tell us things that they won't tell the client as well. So we get some terrific insights, and we combine the two of those together. Where the company going, what the customer wants, what the competition's doing, and that's how we start to develop a brand strategy to take the business into the future.
That's awesome. That's bringing those together, and I'm sure it's a refreshing experience for everybody, and it's an exciting way to like give employees voice, right? Because a lot of times the challenges is, we do a process when we work with clients, because we're going to figure out where their growth constraints are, right? And we do this 2-question exercise. It's so simple. Yep. Every time, every CEO is like, we had this $300 million pharmacy we're working with, and the CEO has been there. He's like, Brad, I've had every consultant in the world in here, and they have a 400-page question survey. I'm like, it's just 2 questions. I say, I literally copy and paste these. What are you doing that you don't think is the best use of your time, and how many hours per month are you spending on it? And then secondly, from where you sit in the business, what do you think that we should be doing that we aren't due to time, money, or knowledge constraints? And every time, the CEO comes back and like, Jane, you've been with me for 9 years and you have 4 items on this list. Why did you never tell me? Right. Well, you never really asked me. So it's amazing. And I share the cultural lift, like I'm sure with your process, because now employees want to feel like they're heard. I mean, when you look at job satisfaction, they want to do meaningful work, but they just want to know that they're recognized, and they want to be a part of something bigger than themselves.
That's it.
That exercise is great for getting clarity on the brand, right? But also just letting employees feel like they're, being given voice in the process.
You nailed it right there.
So it's a two for one kind of benefit there. Well, awesome. So looking at, and I'll pull up Ryan, their website. I got an awesome website, by the way. Love what you guys have built here. On branding business, you can kind of look at, and just, as you can see, right, a ton of experiences and incredible brands that they've had a chance to work with. I mean, just so thankful for this opportunity to kind of peek inside Ryan's brain, because there's just a tremendous amount of work and insights that they've kind of gathered here. So, as it comes to the topic we were talking about today, is navigating this. What role does the corporate brand have relative to the personal brand? You and I have we're joking around talking about everybody remembers the old Wendy's commercial, right? It's the Wendy's brand, but then when you had Dave Thomas back in the day, right, when he was the face and he'd come on, you remember the gray hair and the black glasses and the white shirt and the blue apron. Like I can still visualize. I was a little kid, but when you went to go buy a Wendy's hamburger, right, it was like Dave Thomas I was buying from. I didn't even remember kind of the Wendy's, kind of logo almost. And in the world of AI where we are, and everybody's focusing on know, like, and trust. And I just know, being an EO and YPO, we talked about, a lot of CEOs and business owners are trying to figure out what role does my personal brand play in this journey, and how should I focus on it? And how does it differ based on the size of the company and the type of product or service? So I'd love to hear your insights on it, and any specific examples or case studies without breaching any confidentiality of clients that you could share. It'd be awesome.
Okay, yeah. Well, you're right. This is a question being asked quite often, and the Dave Thomas example you provide was through TV, but now I'm sure most of us don't watch TV like we did, and yet we're getting all of our information from a variety of different resources, and so it's very much very current and very transparent, and so. I always like to say that the company's reputation and the reputation of the leaders are very much linked together. And in the world of branding, it's all about establishing trust, if you think about it. So why should I do business with your company over the competition. And it typically comes down to, I trust that organization more than the others because I'm not always buying on price. In fact, that's usually the case. People tend to not just buy on price, especially in the world of B2B, where these decisions are very significant. A purchase may be 10,000, 100,000, millions of dollars, quite frankly. And so it's very much related to trust. So do I trust this organization? Yes or no? Well, who's running this organization? Do I trust them? And so the need for the C-suite, and I'm saying more than just the CEO, of actually getting out there and communicating a bit of their personal brand, but their personal brand needs to be linked with the corporate brand as well. They need to be doing the same thing together. And if they're not linked enough, they're not aligned, then trouble starts to happen because you can go sideways pretty quick. And if we're aligned on how we're communicating, what we're communicating, both personally and through the corporation, now we are starting to develop some strong power behind it.
So talking about alignment across the whole C-suite, right? And so one element is just pure reputation, as we've seen in the news and some certain executives that have taken some left turns out there, just from a pure credibility and trust standpoint, right? That's critical in terms of how they carry themselves and making sure you got the right people on the bus. Back to Jim Collins. So as it relates to the activity, right, in terms of content that they're producing, as it relates to the CEO or the C-suite, when you see, like I was, on Delta recently, going to the Philippines, visiting my team, and Ed Bastian, right, he's got a big presence. I mean, he's a big visual presence of the company, and he's on a lot of the videos and content. He's out there quite a bit. He hosted a big event at the Sphere in Vegas, and was kind of promoted. And so, he's one of the more visible ones I've seen relative to other corporate CEOs. A lot of people know who Ed Bastian is relative to knowing who the CEO of Kellogg's is per se. But when it comes to the role, the CEO or the C-suite, in terms of actively producing content that's getting put out, whether it's on YouTube or on Instagram and so forth, is that a part of the advisory you guys are giving? And does it vary based on company size, of actively making that a part of their content strategy? Once the brand and all the things are kind of finalized and clear, when you start creating content to promote, what role do you kind of see them playing in it?
Yeah, I don't think it matters on the company size, quite frankly. The example you gave is a good one in the sense that that CEO is humanizing the brand. As you mentioned early on, people do business with people, not faceless corporations. So if you can humanize the brand, it has a more of a connection, and you're like, I can relate to that person. And the reality is, people trust people more than brands. And so once again, branding goes back to trust. And that thought leadership that the CEO or C-suite provides now starts to once again humanize the institution, the organization, but it also provides a glimpse as to, once again, why they're doing things as opposed to just what they're doing. And it creates a relationship. And that's quite a bit what branding is all about as well, is a relationship, rather than just a transaction. If it's down to a transaction, you're not going to have loyalty. You're not going to have adoption. You're not going to have referral. And think about the power of just that. Personal referrals is significantly more effective than any form of advertising possible out there today. So there are just so many benefits to humanizing the brand through the power of getting out there. LinkedIn is, of course, a great use for that. YouTube, power of video. Video is pretty darn effective these days. So yeah, we would advise our clients, no matter what size they are, to have strategic visibility out there pretty effectively.
So that's what with the CEO and or the C-suite, right? Doing some kind of maybe doing a podcast or doing some kind of a weekly video series that's being, put out on LinkedIn or LinkedIn Live, which a lot of people, if you haven't heard of that'd be another tool I'd share with everybody here. A lot of people have no idea that LinkedIn basically has a way to do webinars on LinkedIn. You can invite up to 1,000 people to it. It's an incredible tool. We've been using it a ton. But creating some kind of a game plan of some kind right? Aside from just being a static image on the about us of the website of like who the CEO is having some kind of visibility. And really it's, it's kind of requiring that CEOs and leaders, are comfortable, right? I mean, you're seeing a lot of organizations, I know EO I'm a part of and WIPO as well, like launching, speaker education that's taken off, like helping CEOs be comfortable on film and camera and so forth, because it's becoming not an option, but really a necessity.
Yeah. Well, the reality is you don't have to have a completely polished and professionally produced form of communication today. I mean, it's almost better to have it less polished because it often feels more authentic that way. And so we just advise our clients and ourselves, and the way we do it as well is, come prepared, have a compelling point of view, be succinct, but also be authentic, and come across so much better than having such a scripted approach.
Yeah, transparency and yeah, a lot of times, ironically, it's the behind the scenes, authentic, because that's what people are seeking, more than ever, I think, especially in the world of AI, because people just don't know, especially in the B2B space. I'm sure like you and myself being the amount of robocalls and auto texts and auto LinkedIn messages where it acts like they know me, like, oh, we took a look at your website and we saw you won all these awards. Congratulations. Like, we can all sniff that out very quickly that you didn't read my website or look at anything, right? You had some bot scrape it. And so people think they're being crafty and authentic and personalized, but they're not. So I think it's more than ever kind of critical to have that visibility, as I was sharing, like in my own journey, right? When I started this company, back in 2019, and before that, I did a lot of speaking and educating on the whole world of outsourcing, and I had another company, completely different business. We were manufacturing teeth whitening products of all things. And I started using, offshoring and outsourcing and building that business, and just built a knowledge base around it. And so it helped me grow that business and sold it. And then I did a bunch of speaking and educating for a number of years. And so it was always like Brad, the VA guy, right? And when I decided to launch my own company, people still didn't even know what Outsource Access, my company name. They're like, oh, Brad's this outsourcing VA guy. Go find him on LinkedIn or what have you. And I was like, man, I've got to get my company out there, right? And also the fear that if you ever go to, exit or sell a business, and that's a big fear a lot of times that owners have, is, if I get it too wrapped around my identity, right, will that be a handicap if you ever go, to exit part or pieces of the business as well?
No, that's a good point. If the CEO is too prominent, it's not effective either. Or, we've renamed companies, changing it from the CEO's name who founded the company to another name that allows everyone else inside the organization to rise up. So if you are the brand, and it puts itself in a kind of a vulnerable position, actually. So you have to be careful not to overdo it.
Yeah, it can be a part of it, right? I mean, if you ever do sell, they get all your videos and content of you that's ever been made a part of the equation, but it's got to be a business that can, sustain a different face kind of coming in and promoting and, and advocating for it.
Otherwise it's hard to scale. And quite frankly, it's also hard to sell when you're on the road. So we're working with a client right now whose name is the business, and it's very prominent, but backed by private equity. We're going to rebrand the organization under a name that allows the 5 or 6 organizations to come together under one new name, and then that will carry the business forward.
Well, that's great. I mean, so a classic, perfect example. It can get too wrapped from an identity standpoint. Well, yeah, it's something that we've been grappling and looking at these different channels, and particularly the specific, channels as it relates to YouTube. And YouTube was one that I hadn't touched personally in quite a while, in terms of, because I wasn't a consumer myself of YouTube, but just realized how insanely important that is going forward, and having visibility in those channels and getting myself back out there from an education and thought leadership standpoint. And that channel alone, I think a lot of people discount, not realizing it is the most prominent entertainment platform in the world at this point, right? Not just this side YouTube thing where there's a bunch of, influencers. And just another quick story on the authenticity. I was sharing this. I've learned about a guy that it's in the manufacturing business, and traditional business, they sell a home-based type of product. And it was his daughter that came home from college that said, "Dad, let me do some TikTok videos about the business." She showed behind the scenes and the manufacturing and so forth, right? Doing $7 million, $8 million a month off of TikTok from his daughter doing selfie videos behind the scenes.
Wow.
Right.
Great
Because
example.
of, the authenticity. And it's just, when you think about the consumers and buyers of certain products, that's more on the consumer side. Like, my wife and Instagram, right? They're connected. And there are a lot of decisions made in our household based on what comes up in her Instagram feed a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah.
But so as businesses are kind of navigating this channel, so I guess sort of the final word from your perspective on it is that, the corporate brand and clarity, you got to, regardless, you got to have your mission, your vision, your mission, and clarity to make sure that, the leadership is aligned, and certainly gets all the employees kind of aligned.
Yeah.
That's got to be front and center, and it should guide whatever content's being done, whether it's under the corporate brand or whether it's under the C-suite or the CEO. You got to get that house in order, which you guys kind of specialize in. But it sounds like you're definitely advocating, right, that the leadership needs to probably have some kind of content that they're putting out, in some kind of consistent type of way to help humanize, the brand and bring, consumers closer to it, whether it's B2B or B2C.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I can give you a few different examples maybe of, companies who have done it well and others who maybe haven't, more of a challenge. So there are quite a few actually pretty current ones that are doing a pretty good job. So, if you think about it, Steve Jobs was the face of Apple for many, many years. And then, of course, he passes away and people wonder what's going to happen with Apple. But now under Tim Cook's leadership, the company is 10 times the size it was when Steve Jobs passed away. Now, Tim's pretty visible. There are others more visible out there than he, but he's a very credible person. I mean, he ran operations for the organization, global organization, relying on manufacturing around the globe, a pretty hot topic these days with tariffs and so forth. But he's managed that business quite effectively as CEO, and he gets invited to the White House now to advise and to talk. And so I think he's done a good job. On a related note, Satya Nadella, Microsoft, he came in and the organization was a bit struggling, if you remember, and he reframed that entire culture from they were monolith. It was Microsoft, the big organization. They had this we know it all perspective, and he changed it to learn it all. So he really aligned leadership and the entire organization about doing something for the benefit of the globe. If you're, and once again, kind of coming back to a mission statement, I think their mission was something like a computer on every desk in every office and home, all running Microsoft products, right? Well, it's a pretty powerful vision of what they want to achieve, but it's certainly not very inspiring for a consumer or a channel partner. And he shifted it to empowering every person and every organization to do more for the planet. And so, bigger idea. And I think the combination of setting the vision, purpose, vision, mission, and then delivering upon it and communicating it in a compelling manner that is more than just self-serving can go a long way. And I think those are really two good examples of organizations doing it quite well. Jensen Huang from Nvidia, I think, does a great job. They were a graphics company, been around for 20 some years. He shifted the entire business, and now they're second most valuable company in the world. He's prominently out there, and he's always wearing his signature leather jacket and advising global leaders not just on what they do, but how their technology could empower and do more for the world. And so once again, communicating a bigger idea than just something that's self-serving.
No, those are great examples, and there's different circles that sometimes our listeners, depending on what channels and things you subscribe to, you may or may not see, right? But for the people that need to see and need to know, they're seeing that visibility out there, and you're seeing the growth and the impact for those organizations, and they're providing clarity about where they're going and what they're doing, right? And the shift of the mission statement and being a voice and a vehicle, for that.
Yeah.
Now, thank you very much. Those are great ones, and and it trickles down, right? Whether, regardless of size, like you said earlier, whether you're mega businesses or smaller to medium, and I think a lot of times we forget how critical it is to have that culture alignment, whether you're a 3-person, roofing business, or you're
Yeah.
a, $100 billion company, it starts with that alignment and culture, and it impacts growth, it impacts turnover, and certainly the direction path that they're taking.
Yeah.
Well, Ryan, well, thank you so much for your insights. And man, I know you could probably go on with just case study after case study of perspectives. And it's been, as always for me, good reminder and refresher around how critical it is. It's our core values actually spelled great, ode to Jim Collins. And so making sure that those are part of our dialogue and revisited, because we're in the middle of reshifting kind of our mission and our vision here as we're kind of entering our next stage of growth. So it's been kind of good feedback for me in that process. So
cool.
Well, we'll have
I'm happy to provide any information to you. On our website, we actually have many different blogs and podcasts on the topic of guiding statements, and we spell it out exactly how to do it. So if your listeners want to go to our website, under the insights, just type in the topic and you'll have access to all that information.
Yeah, that's what I'm about to pull up here to kind of close out to show everybody. And we'll put all the notes in the show notes here. And I've got my multiple screens up here, and I was pulling over to be able to kind of share for folks where specifically on your guys' site, because you got all the B2B insights right here as far as
there you go. Yeah,
tons
and then
of great blogs and content. You can filter it by topic. So very tremendous amount of depth and expertise here that people can kind of dig into. And to add another great tool to the equation, you can actually take this website and drop it directly into Notebook LM, which a lot of people may be familiar with. And it can do a great quick summary of the content for you. Have you guys used Notebook LM a bit?
Yeah, we have. You're right. Great tool.
Yeah, it's you can go take Notebook LM and go drop a website into it, drop a YouTube video into it, and it'll actually summarize it, or even create a 2-person interactive podcast about the content. It's amazing how effective and compelling it is. So we'll put it in the show notes. Go to brandingbusiness.com. And, if everybody wants to learn about our world, and I was actually just pulling up the mission statement right there as far as I go to outsourceaccess.com, and we have tons of videos and content, people behind the scenes and learning about the whole world of offshore staffing and who the people are and their background. And then, because that's a lot of the concerns people have is, what is this world like, and what environment are they working in, and, what's the situation? And you'll appreciate this, Ryan. We're actually the only company in the Philippines that has our own magazine. Back to the point of branding. We created our own magazine called Virtual Success that we showcase all of our employees, and we distribute it to all the universities. Really all about focusing on celebrating our employees, nothing about promoting our company. So trying to practice, what we preach in that, in that process. So
smart.
Well, I look forward to digging into your blog and learning more about some of those case studies and examples as we're kind of going through our rebranding. And anybody wants to learn more, you'll see the show notes. And then if you want, you can send an email to tools, TOOLS, tools at outsourceaccess.com on your phone or what have you. And just put branding in the subject line, and we'll send you a bunch of tools and resources. I will provide a link for this episode. And also this thing that people love, and I mentioned earlier, the 2-question exercise we do with clients to figure out their constraint points. That got a video that walks you through it, exactly how to share it to your staff. And I encourage you, copy and paste it, send it to your key managers and say, hey, we're going to meet in a week, bring your answers. And we got over 700 things in here with 5 million hours of work that we've outsourced that kind of helps jog your brain. So it's kind of a good way to kind of start the process. It's a quick little tool. So we'll send that your way. Well, Ryan, thank you so much for being with us. And as we're in the holiday season here, enjoy the rest of the holidays with your family. And thanks for sharing your wisdom with us. We appreciate it.
Happy to be here, Brad. Thank you so much.
Take care.
You too. Bye now.